with Renee.
Yo. We wait all week and all day for more. Saturdays with Renee.
Welcome, everybody, back to Black Liberation Media and episode 109 of Saturdays with Renee, featuring Renee Johnston. I'm Jared Ball, happy to be your co-host. Renee, how you feeling this week?
So the roof is done and the siding is done. And we finally we did a little ceremony and got the bucket out of the house. So it's not chaos here anymore.
The only good way to kick the bucket.
Exactly. So at least that's one thing down. First world problems. On another note, we have not heard from my uncle in Jamaica. We talked about it on the remix the other day. So that's the quick update. Is we're still, rumor is that they should be getting satellite back in his area in like another day or so. So, but literally like just can't. There's no communication. So you forget sometimes like being here and, like New York City flooded during the storms this week. So there was all these like crazy videos of people's like cars floating down the middle of Bed-Stuy. But like my stepson today was like, so how will you know? And I was like, we just don't know. Like we won't know. We won't know until they're back online, and then hopefully somebody hears from him, and then we'll know he's okay. Like there's just no way to fight. There's no way to figure it out because that entire area of the island was destroyed. So that's my good news for the day, because this is fucking, like life, man. Like life be life and capitalism be capitalism, and like there's no answer for it. And while people are talking about like, what's his face from Microsoft, right? It's Microsoft who decided suddenly that climate change is not really a problem anymore. Right.
Well, that's always good. We appreciate that. Or
the other asshole, whichever rich asshole decided that it wasn't an issue anymore. And then, so you have that going. You got Israel still Israeling. Yes, Bill Gates. Thank you, Dre. Now Trump, I guess, is talking about Nigeria and being concerned about the Christians in Nigeria. Like, people still ain't get their checks. Like I just don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. We were told that Maryland is losing $700,000 a day because of the shutdown. And a few of them losses is right around here. So yeah. But at least, I appreciate that Bill has told us we have nothing to worry about. As long as there are billionaires, white male billionaires in particular, involved, I feel every bit of confidence that we're all good. We can just basically close our eyes and relax.
Go take a nap, right? It's wild. There's some wild stuff happening.
It's all
man.
good.
How was the soccer game last night? I forgot to text to ask.
So this is something, I need to talk to you and your husband off the record one of these days about the behavioral psychology behind coach's selection for playing time.
Mm.
So we're in
Mhm.
this real contradictory moment where the team keeps winning, but baby girl's just not getting the level of involvement that a senior should be, coming back from injury and doing all that she has done. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so yeah, it's so the team keeps winning, but it's
Not a
it
lot of playtime for you.
nah, and some of the choices are almost becoming to be, of course, the way I take things, feeling kind of personal.
Yeah.
Because it's like
Was this is
we
this is the change in playtime sudden? Like now all of a sudden there's a change, or
well,
has
the,
it
the
been?
the issue is that it's never gotten right because she's always been basically coming back from injury when playing for this coach. So
Mm,
I understand favorites, and I'm not even saying starting. I'm not even saying play a whole, dominate the time. But there's a rotation, and in this
okay.
rotation, as I've said, I'm very clear. There are three players on the on that team that are clearly better than Marley.
Mhm.
Outside of that, everything is 50-50. Give or take, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's not like when she's on the field, there's some massive drop off. And to be fair, there's no massive uptick. It's not like she's on the field and she's just dominating, and then she's there's something clearly being done here. I'm just saying she should be in the rotation a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And it's starting to it's just
yeah.
this is very difficult to
Yeah.
manage. Uh, uh, and I know that whatever and I know parents see things differently, and we can claim objectivity and whatnot. But I feel like there's also a version of that from the perspective of coaches and those who select the playing time, that they get blind spots and they get their personal stuff in there, and who knows what's going on.
Right.
And yeah. So when Leah's asking, is she upset? It has been, yeah, because she worked very hard to get back to play for her senior year. And
And
and again,
has she talked to the coach about her playing
oh
time?
yeah, yeah.
And the response has been, "Don't worry about it," like brush off,
It's
or
been um vague, and
mm,
answers that don't answer. And again, I'm not saying she should be, I'm not saying sit somebody down and she should, I'm just saying there's a rotation, and it's like,
yeah. And
so
I'm not real clear on how rotations work for soccer. However,
well, it's coach's selection. All I mean by sorry to interrupt, but
no,
just
no, no.
all I mean by rotation is that you can see the coach has a rotation of players that he likes to do to sub in and out
Mhm.
as the game goes. There's no specified, so it's just preference. And all
Okay.
I'm saying is, in his rotation of players, I mean,
A
there
senior who came back from injury should be at least in the rotation, especially if it's not going to mess up the game. So now
it's definitely
this
not
is
messing up the game.
yeah,
Again, she is not a step back from what's
right,
out there. That's sort of my point. It's they're largely interchangeable outside of three.
right,
And one of them, I'm saying, damn, she is nice. Like, it's like I can't, if everybody was like that, I would be like, even I would be like, baby girl, you just got to get better.
right.
But it's not
We'll
like
see.
that.
So
Yeah.
and so Ode to John Trudell is saying there is no
Mm.
rotation of players for fair playing time. It's personal, speaking from years of experience.
Yeah. That's what I'm
So
saying.
it could
That's
be.
why I started
I
with
don't.
behavioral psychology,
Yeah.
something.
So I will say, because football, like we are quote unquote American football in this house, which is, I believe, very, very different from how rotation works in
I don't
soccer.
know.
But I don't know, right? I really don't know. But what I was gonna say to you is I have a very good friend who is a soccer coach and has coached both girls soccer and boys soccer and went Division 1 and would have actually probably been able to go pro had she not blown her knee out. And so I will ask her because she is currently coaching high school soccer and I believe they made it to playoffs. So I believe she can answer me if it's
I'm just
actually
like,
personal or not.
I'm just like. So
Go
then the
ahead,
only other thing
ask the
is,
question.
so the only other thing with these games is what am I going to do during the national anthem? So,
I mean, I
uh,
assume you still sit down, right?
oh yeah. This time I just left the stands this time.
Mm,
Uh, um,
yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, so yeah. That's it.
I
That's it.
usually
You
am
know.
not in the stands for, and I think it's just by luck that I'm usually not in the stands for the anthem. I do not stand for it, however, because I just don't have the like. Fuck that. Like, just no. And then, but I went to Vanderbilt and went to the game a couple of weeks ago because
Hmm.
one of their players, I was my student when I was coaching at that school. He was one of my students and he played for my husband and now he's at Vanderbilt. And so we went to the LSU Vanderbilt game, which I gotta say, listen, y'all know that this football thing is one of my living contradictions. Yo, being at that game live was no, I was like, damn, this is how they get you. This is how they get you. This is how they suck you in because shit, it was fun, man. It was fun. I would lie to everybody and say like it sucked and I don't know why we were there and Tennessee sucks and all of that is true. But sitting in there while they're beating the number 9 school and it's like going back and forth and the game is good and it was packed with LSU people who were all pissed that they were going to lose. Like, listen, that shit was fun.
Hey,
Like,
look.
I'm sorry.
I didn't do it much, but I do remember the time I went and saw Miami play Penn State at Miami in Miami in the early '90s, back when those teams were dominant, and to
Mhm.
see 90,000 people basically partying uh, while the game is on is crazy. The energy is crazy.
Crazy,
So I get it.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, but we were doing the show when the anthem played. And now
Mm.
remember, like Vanderbilt is the Commodores, and there's this whole like military thing that happens. They raise the flag at the end. They got like the fireworks and the
It's a whole
cannonballs.
thing.
I mean, it's a whole thing. And I was sitting there the whole time, like, fuck, this sucks that I'm enjoying this. Like, I was like, I
Hey,
I want to be like, this shit is for the and it is. It Leah, you're right. It is fucking gross. It really is. But I'm sorry, y'all.
look, I've even
Sorry.
seen some of the military marching bands do stuff, and I'm like, that stuff is tight. Like I'm like, I get it. The con
Yeah, man.
it's but
It's a whole
the
thing.
performance, the energy, the vibe
Yeah, it's the whole
is
thing.
part of how we get got, and that's
Yeah,
how all manipulation works.
it
It's just
is.
they
It is.
sell to our emotions
Yeah.
in our in our in our spirit.
Yeah.
So, but that's why we have to be of 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 a dialectical mind,
There you
so that
go.
we can make material what they're trying to do to our spirit
There you go. There you go.
and get
And
clarity.
we do have a guest, but real quick before or actually, we can bring Alkmi up first, but I do want to make sure so I don't get cussed out. Um, I want to make sure that I share something that's happening at Public Square Amplified. Because as folks know, this is where I do all of my public, almost all of my public written work. And so we have just commenced and I dropped it in the chat, in our chat, Jared, if you don't mind pulling it up real quick, and I'll drop it in the regular chat. We just commenced our fundraising for the year. This is the big like fundraising thing that we participate in. So our news match, the goal is 30,000. We get matches as people donate. The minute we hit like 2,500, it'll double. So things like that. So if folks are so inclined, and I know times are rough and it's not an easy ask, we're always asking for different things, but it is a nonprofit paper. We do like a summer course for people who are interested in journalism, and all of these things get, run off of the donations that we collect, and Newsmatch is one of the major things that we run. So if folks are so inclined and are able to do so, please do support Public Square Amplified. Shout out to Josie, who I lovingly fight with on a regular basis about a multitude of things. But we do, look, it's good work. In the end, it's a lot of focus on community. So if folks can do it, it would be appreciated. So
all right.
That's it. That's my plug. That's my plug. So, Josie can get off my back now. And yes, Chitty Matcha, it is a summer course and it's mostly online. So I have to remember to I got to remember to send this to you to see. Maybe we can get you to Jersey just for one session, because I think they do like the first or the last one in person, and then everything else is online, and then they try to do like out in the street. It's almost always people from like Essex County, but I would be open to asking Josie if we'd ever consider letting somebody join from out of state. That's a good. And shout out Chitty Matcha, because I just started that Palo Alto book that she told us about months and months and months and months ago, and it is legit. Like I can only listen to it when I'm doing brainless stuff, like washing dishes, cleaning. I can't listen to it while I'm doing real work, because I realized within like 10 minutes that I was like, oh no, I just missed something. I got to go back. And so now I've learned, like, only when I'm doing mindless stuff, I can listen to it. It's actually called Palo Alto. That's the name of the book. It is, I'll tell you the full, with the subtitle and all. It is Palo Alto, A History of California Capitalism and the World. And it started talking about the gold rush and how they killed off the indigenous people. Listen, legit.
And then here we are. And by the way, just quickly, you're not, no disrespect to everyone, but you don't have to be advocating for everyone outside of the state. It could be reserved for specific platform chat all-stars, like Chitty Matcha. Could be like that's a perk of all the support. But anyway, so yeah,
ready? Is Alkmi ready?
I think so.
Hoodoo Hotel. Oh, my beautiful African family.
Man, your energy, it gives me life. I gotta tell you, it seriously.
Your chuckles give me life, Sister Renee.
Because I'm feeling the exact opposite. So
right.
I'm sorry you've been going through that with baby girl Dr. Ball. All I'm gonna say is I think it is small p political. I don't know shit about soccer, but that smells funky. She's a senior. That should be how you treat recovering.
It's just yeah. Anyway, but I appreciate that, and I definitely appreciate the energy, and welcome back.
I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very grateful to be here with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. So you set out, and I'll be honest, because they came back to finish the door, and yesterday was a little chaotic at my house. It literally, like, the dude packed up at like 4:30 yesterday. And I was like, oh.
I'm just glad y'all are finished with that.
It's done. Thank God. So I have not gone through all the things that you sent, but I know you had like a secondary thing that you wanted to show. And I'll tell you, after you came on the first time, I got a note from Dennis. Shout out Bat, one of my comrades at Bat, who said we're actually doing a reading group on this book. So I got invited to the reading group, and we've been in there. So I have some questions from the reading group that if we like, if we as we go, we can. But I want you to do your little presentation that you pulled together first, and then we'll let some questions from the chat, because we had to roll through and end. And so one of the reasons I'm really excited we got to bring you back was because there were questions in the chat, and there were things going that I want us to be able to do. So you finish your presentation first, and then we'll go from there. But I'm excited to have you back, Alkmi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Renee. That means a lot. All I wanted more of our Black family to do is to get Luna's book. That was the original thing I even came on here to do in the first place. So the fact that there's BAP cadre reading this, that makes me happier than I can even express to you. Two, just for the audience and you all, in the spirit of being a good communist, self-critique, I very much appreciate all the love, the support, the additional questions, ideas, and even critique I got from you all in the chat. It's very clear your chat is much more studied, committed, intelligent, praxeologically experienced than I am. I'm just really grateful and happy to be learning with and from and alongside you all. So I'm no expert. I'm just a nerd. I'm very happy to be here. And in the spirit of self-critique, Renee and Jared in chat, I understand some of the contradictions that defined my presentation last time. I beg your forgiveness. I was laboring under some, you could call them maybe self-destructive thought patterns and assumptions that weren't helpful to me. That's part of why I rushed. But given that, I intend to make more space and time, Renee, not just at the end of my presentation, but at key select strategic points throughout for questions. And I also want to have an emphasis on trying to concretize more practical examples of what I'm saying as well. I've kind of structured a whole teleonomy of how I'd like this little course to go. I don't want to assume that I'm inviting myself back for a third or fourth time, but we will not get it through everything here as well as last time. I would just like us to revisit some of the meat of our laws of motion and of contradiction and negation that I didn't have as much of an opportunity to get to y'all with last time. We'll see it in my slides, but if there's possibly a third or fourth time of Alkmi coming back in the near to far future, I'd like us to eventually get back into the pairs and how to apply them, how to avoid metaphysical errors that come from not using them. And then eventually, possibly going beyond materialist dialectics with y'all and going into the other two domains of dialectical materialism, which is epistemology and dialectical logic. Sister Renee, it's all in the little pedagogical visual I send you. It'll be in my slideshow too. But Dr. Ball, if you don't mind, you were an excellent helper for me last time with the slideshow. Would you be able to do that again? It's okay if not.
Yep, all set.
Okay. Before I get started, y'all, don't worry. I will not spend an hour introducing myself again. That's the benefit of being here a second time. I did prepare a couple of notes, though, based on my presentation and based on a couple of personal things I wanted to say on the platform while I have a chance before I get started. This is just stuff I was kicking myself in the butt for not mentioning to y'all last time. So quickly, one, I want to shout out to Mtume. I'm a huge fan of you. Please keep coming on the platform. I love that you bring the dialectical thought into your film and media analysis. Shout out to Ear Doctor. Shout out to Jackie Lukman, Amber, Kim Brown, Kamal, Brother Evan, all the Remix Morning Show hosts, Black Myths Podcast, Samantha Youssef, Carlos and Deculturation. I love all of your panoply and constellation of media. Please keep doing that. And I love so many of your guests you guys have been bringing on. I love that you guys have been making connections to, Resistance is Fertile with Comrade Benji, with Adnan Hussein, with East is a Podcast, with Millennials. I love all of it. I'm here for all of it. I've benefited greatly from it. So thank you. Last time you guys were asking a little bit into my background, I realized I wasn't being a very good socialist and nor a materialist. No person is a great man or woman or non-binary person on their own. I didn't become a socialist on my own, Renee. I apologize to my mentors for giving such a mediocre answer. Basically, you guys, I did not teach myself all this. I mean, yes, I did, but it's only because of great people I had in my life to emulate, to be examples for me of the kind of person that I wasn't even given an example of to be in my upbringing. that is who I am today. It's people like my partner, my Boricua partner. She's why I know half the stuff I do and why I have the sharpness of critique and analysis of dialectical materialism that I do. And even some of my white comrades. My first really, Renee, to the story time from the previous talk, my first foray into socialism was Palestine and was a white anarcho-communist comrade, my good comrade Dustin. So I wouldn't be here at all. I know these names mean nothing to you all, but I would not be here at all if it were just on the virtue of my own self-development. I had the privilege of receiving great mentors throughout my life that were completely by happenstance. So that's part of my own journey and who I had to give flowers to. Thank you, chat, for your patience and for your forgiveness for the lack of interactivity. I'm going to be sure to actively negate those contradictions, hopefully this time around. Chitti Matcha, I've been seeing some of your chats about dialectics, about your decolonial perspectives on us people of color, global majority people having our own indigenous systems of dialectics, before Marx, and how Marx was like the first of his brethren to kind of save the Europeans from a tradition of being one of the only people and civilization on Earth that have a non-dialectical philosophical tradition. I've seen your comments, Chitti Matcha. All I'm going to say is I feel like you and me and my partner would be friends in real life, and we would have hours to talk, because the kind of sauce you're on is exactly the kind of stuff me and my partner theorize all the time with decolonial dialectics. So Chitti Matcha, you're a very, yes, you are awesome. And Comrade Josh, Comrade Lork, if you're here or if you're not, I was seeing all of the para-educational help and labor you're doing last time. Thank you so much for all that. I didn't ask you to do any of that. You were extremely valuable as an element to my talk last time, and it wasn't even planned. So, maybe in the future, I would even love to have Josh in the same space as us, and we could, bounce off each other, chop it up dialectical style. Because, yeah, I love all the practice you do with your dialectics, Comrade Lorick, from what I've seen, and you're just a valuable member of the community to have. So I hope they give you more showtime. I love that your chat, Dr. Ball and Renee, was bringing up Taoism, Buddhism, East Asian indigenous religions and influences, as it relates to dialectics. I also love that your chat was bringing up Mao and Kim Il-sung and Huey Newton, and making connections revolutionary to my people, DPRK, and y'all's Black liberation radical tradition. So that makes my heart fill with joy when people talk about Huey Newton and DPRK in the same sentence. And finally, I just want to say, I Manifesto, Eric Berkeley, Monty Niles, Gamandi, the other Monty, Comrade Professor McFarland. Thank you so much for coming in and dropping some of your indigenous connections to Professor McFarland. I'd love to see you back on the channel. Keontae, Michael T, Dre Without, Stephen Pelliser, Leah Boggs, 2Fs, David Silberg, Rouse Pasta Sauce, Alex, and Drums of Liberation. The whole chat was incredibly kind to me, and in a way I did not deserve, but you guys especially stuck out as I was going back through the chats. I loved all of your contributions. I'm really grateful to have comrades like you here. Yeah, and that's all. We can get started. Dr. Ball, if you're ready. Sorry about that.
Alkmi, you gave me life. I've been sitting here chuckling. You were just the best, man.
I'm sorry. I had to be selfish just for a moment.
It's all good. It's all good. And I am here for it. And just so you know, Ntume is in the chat and he says, peace to you, Alkmi. Appreciate the shout out. So
I'm nervous. I wish you didn't show me that. Okay. Oh God. Okay, cool.
All right, so we're getting started. Let's go.
All right. And I won't spend time treating you all like this is 101. I'm not going to spend too much time defining things. For all of you who may be joining for the first time, I'm just going to say, humbly, I apologize. There's simply no time. But if you want a lot of your questions answered that you may have with the terms I'm using, please go back and watch part 1. Go back to the hour in. I'm just jabbering for the first hour. So that's when the real lecture starts.
So you want me just to go in order of the...
yes, Dr. Ball, if you don't mind. Just go to the first...
email.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go to the slideshow.
Yeah, the slide.
Yes. There's a lot, but go to the slideshow. It'll be like slideshow for Renee part 2 or something like that. Sorry about that, y'all. And I will be even skipping around in that, Dr. Ball, but I'll be directing you as needed. And Renee, Dr. Ball, if you guys would like, you can absolutely share this with the comrades too, just like you did with my last one. It's a lot longer, y'all, but trust me, most of it we won't be going through. Dr. Ball, it's okay.
All right, wait a second. It's saying I need to request access.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I thought I gave you guys access. Sorry. I was
But
going to
that
show you guys the itinerary while Dr. Ball is searching for that real quick.
happens to me all the time. Like I share something with somebody and they're like, I can't open it.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ball. Give me a sec. Renee, you don't have the same abilities Jared does, do you? If not, I'll just send it.
Meaning,
like, can you access the thing and try to show it on the screen the way he did?
well, if Jared can't share it, I won't be able to share it too. You probably just need to change the share access in the actual slide doc. You probably still have it just for you.
I gave you guys view, just not edit. Is that insufficient?
Should
there be
more?
Well, it wouldn't let me open it.
Okay. It's got download. So I'll just wait. What I can show you guys while I'm just spinning that wheel here. I wrote up a little visual guide for you all just to have a teleonomy of a little bit of our course. Basically, this is the big picture, you all. Don't get scared by this. Trust me when I say that. Just don't get scared. You see this? This is just dialectical materialism, the way the Chinese and the Vietnamese understand it. Don't get scared. This is epistemology. That's your theory of knowledge. We won't get to that right now. That's part 3 of Luna's book. This is dialectical logic. These are the laws of human thought as dialectical materialism understands. We won't get to that right now. This is what I've been on lately. This is materialist dialectics. This is just, you guys remember from last time, the methodology of dialectical materialist philosophy applied to understand and transform matter. You don't need to see all of these. Just look at the highlighted ones. Those are basically the meat of what we're going through today and what I did last time. You got your 3 laws of universal change and development. You got your 2 principles, principle development, principle general relationships, and you got your 6 category pairs. All right, Dr. Ball, it finally downloaded my end. I'm going to send it to you all again. Materialist Dialectics PowerPoint Part 2. I'm going to say, allow anyone with the link to access.
Perfect.
Viewers should be fine, like you all said. Share with people.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll see that in a moment, Dr. Ball. So you guys, I very hurriedly went through this last time with you all. Particular and common or general, reason and result, necessity and accident, content and form, possibility, and reality and essence and phenomenon. We may have time to go through those categories this time around. That'll be more for our shorter to long term if I'm so grateful as to be invited back. Right now, we're going to go through these 3 laws. The law of the transformation. Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I'm still not getting access.
I did the same thing as I did last time, you guys. I'm gonna try one more thing.
And we're talking about materialist dialectics PowerPoint Part 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna drop it and I'm gonna drop the link in the private chat and you can see if you can open it from there because I just got it to open. So if I got it to open, you should be able to share it.
And mind you, y'all, it's a Google link drive. It's not the actual attachment.
Right. All right, here. Okay, that worked. Okay.
Beautiful. All right, we can just blame Dr. Ball then, not. I'm just kidding.
That's fine. That works.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ball. Thank you. All right, let's get started, y'all. I was a little more poetic this time around. You know, you got to be a salesman for this kind of stuff. This is the methodology for the militant and decolonial revolutionary. Our white brothers and sisters can help us, but this is for us global majority African and brown people to change the world. This is what we use to decolonize. How to know matter, how to transform matter. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. You guys remember this from last time? Sylvia Wynter, Mao Zedong. These are revolutionary dialecticians. What's dialectical materialism? No, that's all right, Dr. Ball. You can keep going. Shout out to Dr. Ball for introducing me to André Blouin, by the way. Revolutionary Congolese woman. Dialectical materialism is just the philosophy of matter determining consciousness, and consciousness can impact matter. All right. Next slide, Dr. Ball. It's the core philosophy of Marxism, Leninism, and of scientific socialism. What's materialist dialectics? Remember, you all, it's just the methodology of dialectical materialism. It's the concepts of dialectical materialism applied to our practice and to our theory in order to transform the world. A more kind of flowery, right-wing way of saying this is it's the science of universal relationships. It's the science of contradictions. It's the study of the laws of change. It's the science of mutual impacts. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. Remember, y'all, dialectical materialism is how we understand the world. You understand it as mind creates matter. Matter creates mind. Mind can impact matter. Materialist dialectics is how we transform the world through the 6 pairs and the 3 laws. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. Dialectical means mutual impact, y'all. It just refers to the fact that all matter contains contradictions, which are a temporary unity of opposing forces. That's what a mutual impact here is in this case. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. We're getting into some housekeeping, so this will be the fast section. Here's something that I recalled in my Chinese education, Dialectical Materialism. You all won't find this in the Vietnamese book, but it's very much parallel to what we're learning. This is what our Chinese comrades say. The three core elements of materialist dialectics, put a different way, is interconnection or relationships, development, motion, or change. You guys have seen this in different canons in Maurice Cornforth and USSR and Black Liberation Armies manuals. We use these words interchangeably. They're not completely interchangeable, but for here they will be. Interconnection and relationships, change, development, or motion, and contradiction. What's the meaning of these three things, Alkmi? Well, everything's connected. Everything's changing all the time. And the thing or the concept that connects those two concepts together is a type of universal relationship that exists between everything that also is responsible for all change. What is alchemy? What's the synthesis of change and relationship? Contradiction. Contradiction is the type of universal relationship that everything contains that also is responsible for change. There's other relationships, you guys. Contradictions aren't all things, but all things contain contradictions. Those are the three most important things that the Chinese say is what innervates materialist dialectics. Everything's connected, everything's changing, and contradictions are why those two things are true. Everything's got contradictions, everything's changing because of contradictions. Go ahead, next slide, Dr. Ball. You all know this. This is just a different way to formulate the same information. In the dialectical materialist philosophical tradition, matter, not the scientific definition, matter is anything that objectively exists outside of human consciousness or mind. Consciousness is just a very special, particular type of matter that can reflect matter. Consciousness is just the reflection of matter in the human mind. A category is basically a set of shared attributes or characteristics between phenomenon or relationships. A relationship is the regulating principles, mutual interactions, and mutual transformations which exist between things like phenomena and ideas. A phenomenon is just anything observable to the human senses in the material world, including ideas and semiotics and cultural constructs. A dialectical contradiction, not the metaphysical kind that's in our everyday usage of the word, is just a temporary unity of opposing forces. A dialectical negation, we'll get to this later, is simply when one thing comes to be replaced by a new thing. So it's both a deletion and a replacement. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. Shout out to Luna Oi, Comrade Luna Nguyen, our Vietnamese comrade that did the laborious but incredibly necessary labor of translating our Vietnamese curriculum of dialectical materialism, as well as part 2. You guys can get that on her website, banyanhousepublishing.org. Historical materialism, same price, and she's working on part 3, political economy. You guys can share the links as you will, or share the slideshow with our comments to access the link. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. Ebook is free. Real book's $20. What's materialist dialectics for? Again, it's used for understanding matter so we can transform matter. The whole world is matter, including other people. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. Everything's connected and everything's defined by the relationships. Remember? And everything's changing, and this change is due to internal mutual impacts between things. That's called contradictions. Those 3 laws I'm going to get into you with today, comrades, those are going to be governing change and the architecture of change when it happens and what causes it to happen. The most important thing for us to remember here is that the second law of universal motion, comrades, this is the most important of all materialist dialectics because it's pretty much the heart of dialectical materialism. That is contradiction. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. All right, we got some Scooby-Doo again. By the way, shout out to Josh. He said, you must know Dr. Ball if you picked Scooby-Doo. I actually didn't. I just needed to find a slide that was giving a kind of negation in a kind of way, in a very culturally accessible manner. Contradiction, you guys, does not mean hypocritically being inconsistent with oneself. It does not mean a paradox. Yes, it does, but not in the dialectical materialist definition, only in our Western metaphysical usage of the word. Contradiction in the dialectical materialist definition means a temporary unity of opposing sides. That's all it means. Negation here, you all, does not mean running away from a contradiction or problem instead of resolving it, instead of confronting it or overcoming it. I apologize if I've gave that impression in my last slideshow or my last talk. That's not what it means. It may mean that in everyday usage in US and in metaphysical bookra land. But negation here, you guys, just means when something stops existing and it gives rise to something new existing. We'll get more into this later. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. You guys remember me loving on Dr. Ball and how people who say he's not materialist are actually not materialist themselves for not caring about culture. We won't get into that. But I just wanted to bring you up this third graphic I brought in. Just remember that science and dialectical materialism has a relationship to each other, right, you all? They don't replace each other. now that I've explained to you all kind of the brunt of this in the first presentation, I'll say this on a higher level now to you all. Dialectical materialism, materialist dialectics, you all, is just, it's a scientific philosophy, and philosophies are frameworks and heuristics we use to understand everything, right? Meaning, ontology, epistemology, right? Praxeology. Particular sciences, the way we understand as dialecticians, are just the laws and the dialectics and the laws and the dynamics of dialectical materialism manifesting themselves as particular sciences and as particular qualities of motions of matter on particular levels of organization of matter. What does that mean? Chemistry is the dialectics of chemicals and atoms and molecules. Biology is the dialectics of cells and metabolism and of tissues and of life forms and of ecosystems. Physics is the dialectics of mechanical impacts and friction and of processes between mechanical Newtonian motions of matter. Mathematics is, well, we won't get into this, but it's essentially the dialectics of quantity and of numbers. But do you guys see? Both are important. The relationship materialist dialectics has to sciences is the relationship that the common or the general has to the particular. Sciences are the particular way that matter manifests motion, and they have their own laws at each level that dialectical materialism can't tell you. But dialectical materialism describes and observes and studies laws that are actually applicable to all levels of matter. What does that mean, Alkmi, for my practice? Know science. And if you can't know science, at least respect science, not the book of science. Also know dialectical materialism. Don't see either as a replacement for the other, but understand that sciences are how we actually understand the concrete levels of matter in the world, of economics, of chemistry, of biology. Materialist dialectics is what helps you organize all the information that you get from sciences. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. We can get more into that later. Here's some housekeeping. We're going to go more into the 3 laws of universal motion today. Again, African family comrades, I apologize for not giving you all enough time for this. I'm being conscious and aware of negating these contradictions the second time around. I'm going to try to give a lot more time for both questions and inquiries throughout, Renee, not just at the end. I really do take myself seriously in that. I want to do better in that. I apologize for last time. And I want to give more practical examples all throughout too, more real world examples. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. In the longer term, you all, we will eventually be getting into the pairs. Not now. Don't be scared by this either. A lot of these bullet points are just one sentences I'm going to be sharing with you. Do you guys see this map right here, this concept map? This is a zoomed in version of the materialist dialectic section of that concept map I showed Renee and Jared earlier with the highlights. What you and I and we will be getting into today, comrades, is mostly the right half of this. You see that? Just the 3 laws, the characteristics, that's all. Any more we can squeeze out of that? Mashallah, as our Habibis say. I'm not going for that. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. We're going to get into the pairs eventually, and then the principles eventually too. More practical applications. Go ahead, Dr. Ball. Not for now, though. That's just a visualization. So as you all remember, I showed you guys the 6 pairs, right? This is what I didn't share with you last time. There's a little bit of more subpoints beneath them. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. And that's the long term. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. And go ahead, Dr. Ball. We can skip these 2 for now, Jared. Everything's connected. Everything's changing. Remember, you guys know that. All right, this is what we're getting to. This is the meat. Law of the transformation between quantity and quality is first. Then I'm going to get into you guys with of unity and contradiction of opposites. This is going to be the most meaty. But in my opinion, Africans, this is actually the most important. This is the most applicable. Your daughter's politics with her soccer. Renee, you fixing the leak, and now there's another problem. This is actually extremely concrete and applicable. So we're going to try to spend as much time on this as possible, you all right? And then the law of negation. It's the most abstract, but it's also extremely important, but it's actually really simple. So hopefully we don't spend too long on that, but I want you all to walk away from this knowing contradiction more than you did coming in. That's my immediate goal. The other 2 are important too, but I want you all to understand contradictions, types, resolutions, positionalities. All right, go ahead, Dr. Ball. Cool. Before we get started on the 3 laws, this is just something that I think would be really useful for a practical analysis and application of these concepts. We'll skip this for now, Dr. Ball. The next slide is just an elaboration on that picture. This is a heuristic I want to introduce to you all. This will lay on top of our applications of the laws. This will be very relevant, even if it seems a little more zoomed out. I don't agree politically with David Harvey on a lot of things. I won't explain myself. You all who know, you know. But I really appreciate David Harvey did give us this. And it's a heuristic mental diagram, if you will, you all, of what he calls the 7 activity spheres of human life. You guys can copy this. You can find it online. I got this from his book, Enigma of Capitalism. Here's what he used it for, you all. capitalism, in trying to navigate and flow through the different aspects of human society, I'm telling you what David Harvey uses for, then I'll tell you what we'll use this for. Harvey says capital needs to flow through each of the different activity areas and domains of human life and of a human social formation that we call society. It needs to negotiate boundaries that are unique to each sphere or domain. When capitalism can't negotiate a boundary, when it can't find a way to co-opt Killer Mike as well as they did last year, or Bad Bunny, or when they can't push a new technological form to increase the rate of exploitation on workers, when capitalism can't negotiate boundaries in these 7 areas of life, you all, it stops. Capital is money in motion, right? When capital can't flow and reproduce itself, that's when you get essentially crises. That's why he brought this heuristic up, you guys. It was to talk about crises and a multi-dimensional, holistic, multi-part analysis of society and why they're caused. All we need to understand here, comrades, is when you want to be dialectical materialist, you have to look at a thing as a totality, and you have to appreciate all of its diverse different parts. That's what I'm going to say for now for dialectical materialism for here. What this heuristic that Harvey gave us, you all, is extremely useful, because what it does is it kind of forces you to say, hey, wake up. Don't just think about education. You also have to think about labor and about mental conceptions. You also have to think about nature. You also have to think about legal and administrative. It's a mental heuristic, comrades, to make sure that you are thinking holistically and multidimensionally about society at any given time, whenever you're analyzing contradictions or whenever you're analyzing problems, sources of motion, political turmoil, or any kind of event that happens in socio-political, economic, cultural life. This is a very useful mental tool to make sure you're looking at all areas of society. Now, I'm not going to say these are all areas of society, you all, but they're essentially what David Harvey did is pulling out of Marx and Engels what we understand as historical materialism and historical materialists' theory of social formations, which is basically society is a body, like a human body. It's got many different parts, and they're all an organic, unified whole. So what are these, Alkmi? These 7 spheres are the sphere. These are basically conceptual domains that you can split society up into to have a trans-differentiated view of society in a dialectical materialist way. There's technological forms. There's relationship to nature. There's social relations. There's the sphere of reproduction of the daily life and of the species. Shout out to Nick Estes and being on Millennials That Killing Capitalism. And Red Nation. I'm not talking about biological reproduction, you all. Yes, that does fall into it. That which women and non-men and non-binary people are given disproportionate amounts of expectation on not receive any of the fruits of their labor. That's reproduction, but also social and cultural. Amilcar Cabral, right? Social reproduction, cultural reproduction, reproduction of the species as a totality, right? A socioeconomic, that's also in the sphere, not just biological reproduction, even though that encompasses that too. Institutional and administrative arrangements, mental conceptions of the world, and labor processes. These basically, you guys, are 7 different spheres that what we understand in dialectical materialism, a society as a social formation is made up for. Whenever you're kind of trying to apply categories or your laws of dialectical materialism about to deepen your understanding of, this can be a nice heuristic to pair with your dialectical materialist tools to make sure that you're looking at society as a totality and a holistic organic unity. That's the most I'll say on this for now, but it's very useful. Please use it. David Harvey's got bad politics. He doesn't really care about third world people's analysis that much, but this is very useful. Go ahead, Dr. Bull. We'll come back to this repeatedly. Okay. You all probably know what this law is already from my last talk. I'll just get more into the depths with you about how what I did share with you. And before I go, to negate my own contradictions, Renee, Jared, beautiful chat. Is there any questions so far? I know I haven't really taught anything.
No, but funny enough, you're going into the thing that I think I struggled the most with as far as this whole concept is so the quantity and quality, negation and it's because the words don't like when you look at a definition of those words.
The Western way is not the dialectical
way.
And
how we use them in the Western world, it is completely.
I know.
It has nothing to do with the dialectic.
I know.
And so you're trying to navigate this like, wait, that's not what it means, Renee. Remember, that's not what it means.
I have to think it's on purpose too, or they benefit from it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yes.
So that you go. I just wanted to say that out loud because this.
Thank you.
This is the thing that, like, for me. And I think probably for a lot of people where they will struggle with the dialectic conversation is because the words don't mean the thing that we've been taught that they mean. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had the same as you, Sister Renee. Thank you. That helps focus me. Even if you didn't think you contributed anything, you actually did. Like, that helps me. I don't just want to assume you all are just, wherever I assume you're at. I want you to know where you all are actually at, right? So no, that's taken. Yeah, no. So I'll try to keep that in mind. Dr. Ball, Chad, if you have nothing else to inquire, given Renee's orientation she just shared with us now, let's work on that. What does quantity mean? It's just the count of something, you all. The count or the magnitude or the number aspect of something. I know that's very vague. I have a science background. Renee, I know you're a teacher. You probably have been learning this too. This does line up a little more with the Western way, the quantity. It's just temperature. It's just speed. It's just degrees of distance. I'm 5,000 miles, a quantity from Jared and Renee and my unspecified place in the Midwest I'm from. Quantity and quality are both aspects that everything material process has, you all. Quantity is just the dialectical category that refers to the countable aspects of anything, the quantifiable, all right? That's all you need to know. My kufiyeh is a quantity of 7 feet long. I'm a quantity of 140 pounds and a quantity of 5'7". It's just a count. Quality, it doesn't mean, oh, Alkmi, that was a good quality presentation. Alkmi, you're not a very good quality human being. You talk too much. That's not the qualities we're talking about. Quality is the characteristics or the properties of something. Quality, you all, is just the non-countable aspects of something. You can't count me being an Okinawa Korean Japanese. That's the quality I have. You can't count how many moms is Renee. You're worth 10 moms. How many professors is Jarrett? Do you see how that doesn't apply? There's a dichotomy even in our language and our mind, right? Quality is just the things that give things the properties they have. Remember, Renee, when you were giving that anecdote about you and your son and wetness in our last talk, and wetness is a relationship? That's a quality. Qualities are relationships that are not parsed into count by the human mind. So quality is just the characteristics of something. The quantity is just the count of something, okay? We don't need to think too deeply about this because really the line blurs between them anyway, as dialectics says with all opposites. But quantity is what you see as a human when you're looking at things and you can count them or you can measure a magnitude of some aspect of them, speed, temperature, friction, blah, 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 right? Even stuff you can't see, right? Qualities are just aspects and characteristics of something: soft, hard, Asian, yellow, brown, mixed, Jewish, black, Jamaican. They're identities. We'll get more into that later. I don't want to use that word identity because it's a little different, but you can think of the identity of something as a unity of its qualities in dialectical materialism, all right? I don't really want you guys to get too caught up on those two labels. Remember, I was telling you about the pairs. It's not about the categories. The Western world has their own version too. It's about the dialectic between the categories. What's the dialectic between quantity and quality? I'll be very simple. This is all the law says, Sister Renee, with a few elaborations. Everything in the world is changing because everything is a process, right? Defined by contradictions. But the law of quantity and quality tells you when change happens and the shape of change, the architecture of change. The law says that things only change, you all, when they undergo quality shifts, which is I'm going to change some aspect of my identity that I wasn't previously. I'm going to go from being hungry to not being, from a baby to a teenager. I'm going to go from being alive to being dead. Qualities only change once a certain amount of quantities have changed and have been built up and spill over into a quality difference. So basically this law is saying, as things change all the time, universally, comrades, you should not expect things to change right away ever, even if it looks like that on a surface or from some viewpoint. Quality changes, or things only change their essential characteristics and their properties when enough quantities of a certain kind have been changed and built up. And that's going to be different for every situation. That's why I'm speaking so vaguely. But essentially what this law is...
Real quick, Alkmi. And I was actually about to ask you to do the same thing.
I'm sorry.
So Keontae sent you... No.
Sorry,
and not because what you said didn't make sense, but because for someone who's trying to follow and understand, because quality is one of those words that Western language completely messes you up when you're looking at it dialectically. So can you just say it one more time, when things, that explanation of when things change from quantity to quality. If you could say that one more time. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely, Renee. So I'll say first without those words. I'll just say it in other words. Things as characteristics and aspects only will change once the countable magnitudinal aspects of something change. So to use the terms, everything in the universe is changing, but everything's qualities, a thing's quality will only change only once a certain amount of its quantities have been changed. That's the simplest way to put. That's the way the Vietnamese understand it. What does that mean in terms of a thing? Like if I heat up a paper too much, there'll be a point where enough quantity of heat has been built up where it'll cause the paper to assume a different form and identity. It'll catch on fire. It'll turn into ash. It'll turn into something it's not previously, right? That quality change was it transforming. That's what the Western kind of European dialecticians call it. They call it transformations. They call quantity shifts changes. You guys may have heard in other Western dialecticians language and Black liberation dialecticians, continuity and rupture. You've heard that before, haven't you? Same thing. When things are changing, you all this law is also saying is things are always changing. It's just there's two kinds of changes you can be in at any given time. Renee, Jared, the words I'm saying right now, the Palestinian ceasefire, that's not a ceasefire, right? Things are either changing by looking like they're staying the same and they're only growing or shrinking, right? That's the quantity shifts that they go through. Or things suddenly evolve. Suddenly, I did this last time. Alkmi has a kufiyah, now he doesn't. That's a quality shift, right? It's not a count shift, it's a quality shift, right? I'm not the person I was wearing the kufiyah earlier. Quality shifts are ruptures. That's when things literally just boom. I went from being A to B. Quantity shifts are when things are in continuity, where they look like their past self from 5 minutes ago or 5 seconds ago. I just want you all to understand this law is saying there's both in everything. Everything is always changing. It's just a lot of times things are just changing via quantity. You see Renee and Keontae, I'm getting older. I'm breathing more X amount of quantities in my lungs right now, like 5 million quantity of oxygen molecules right now. I don't look like Alkmi is changing at all. Alkmi is the same identity and quality he is. But I am aging, I'm changing quantitatively. When things change quantitatively, Renee or Keontae, whether we're forcing them to or they're just changing naturally on their own, they're undergoing periods of continuity. That's where they're just growing or shrinking, right? But they're not changing, if you will. They're not transforming. But Renee and Keontae, once a thing's quantities, countable aspects, heat, speed, size, amount of molecules in your belly that make you a kid. You know, I'm not going to get into all the sciences, but you guys know what I mean when I say quantity. They compose everything, right? Atoms, right? Cells. Once a certain amount of quantities has reached a certain range or threshold, once it goes over that, the thing that possesses those quantities, it'll go through a quality shift of some kind. Water heating up to steam, a baby turning into a kid, turning into a teenager, a body going from being living to dead, right? A pencil going from full to being broken, right? Quality shifts are when things change their identity. Quantity shifts are when things change their count or their aspects. The second one has to come before the first. We'll get more into this, okay? But before we change sides, Jared, again, we'll elaborate more, but just some housekeeping for this law, you all. It's okay if you still don't understand at this point. This law wants us to understand some anatomy, and there's one very, very important lesson the Vietnamese say. That's all I'm going to reduce this to. So when we look at that picture of water glasses, Jared, on the bottom of that screen, this is kind of an anatomy of a quantity and quality shift threshold, right? And change. You all, the quantity threshold is just the period. It's the set of stages that a thing is in as a motion and process in motion, where it is only building up quantities. It's aging. It's getting more water in the glass. It's getting less water, right? I already told you guys what quantity shifts are, and it's keeping its same identity. The quantity range is when a thing keeps its same identity as a process, but it's just undergoing quantity changes of some kind. The quantity threshold is the point at which once enough quantities have been built up, which is particular to every situation and condition, it forces the thing's quality in some way, in some aspect, to change, to make a leap, to make a rupturous jump, right? A transformation. That's what the quantity range is. It's that limit of that thing's current identity. The period of motion is just the whole phase of a thing A, eventually quantity shifting to the point where quality shifts into a thing B. So a thing becoming something as it's not. All of that shit in between, me starting off, me growing in quantity, me entering that period of a quantity threshold where it triggers a quality shift, and now I'm a teenager. I'm not a kid anymore because I grabbed enough quantity of age, right? From 10 to 11 to 12 to 13. That whole period, comrades, from thing A to thing B and the quantity shift and threshold between, that is called the period of motion. Don't think too hard about that. That's just the word the Vietnamese textbooks use. Here's the most important part of it. And Renee, this may help answer some of your questions too, and it'll help practicalize it. And then we got one more slide in this, and we're basically done with this law. This law isn't the deepest. The Chinese, the Chinese Marxist-Leninists in our Mao Zedong thought, they have a very, very useful concept for coming up with how to use this in real life and in action, you all. The Chinese call it the principle of moderation. You probably have heard this if you've been around Asian households too. I think we mixed in some of our indigenous cultural beliefs and Taoism and Confucianism into dialectics. The Chinese say the principle of moderation reminds us that, listen here, organizing, politicizing, talking to your family about Trump, or about the internal colonialism theory, or politicking with your coach about your daughter not getting time on the soccer field. If we want to keep something the way it is, a situation, if we want to stabilize a situation's identity, you, the revolutionary, you have to study the process, and you have to find out which quantities are keeping that quality within that range. Every quality of a thing, me being Asian, me having every quality is composed of quantities that got it there to make it transform into that quality it is. If you want something to stay the way it is, you have to stabilize the quantities within that quantity range I was just telling you all about. You have to promote the continuity of the process, right? You have to keep the quantities within a range that they will not make the process turn into a different quality or rupture into a different identity in, right? If you don't like something, if you don't like a situation, or if it's unsuitable to you or your class or your cadre or your people or your family, you have to work to push the quantities past the range that will make the thing assume a new quality. If you don't like something, you have to push the quantities to the point where the whole thing changes into a new quality, something that you could possibly benefit from more, right? A situation, a person, a relationship, whatever. If you do like something, hey, we got a good thing going on, I don't want to mess it up, right? You have to identify which quantities are keeping it in that identity it's currently in that stage of its development, and do as much as you can in your practical and conscious labor to keep it there. That can look like a lot of different things. Renee, if I don't want my water to boil, I'm going to make sure it never reaches a quantity of 100 or more. I'm going to make sure that. Well, how do you do that, Alkmi? Well, that's easy. Just don't boil it. It's real life, and political and social relationships are harder. But as an easy example, if you like your water, don't let the quantity go to 100 or past 0. Okay, cool. Do you not like your water? Do you want steam because you want to steam your face, or you want ice cubes? You don't like water's liquid state. You don't like its quality being, that's fine. Identify which quantities you need to push and make them surpass the threshold that they need. Make the water lose its quantity of temperature all the way to 0, and then it's ice. Or make it gain enough quantity where it forces it to be steam.
Right.
You look like you're going to say something, Renee.
Yeah, just real quick. So, and Jared, did you have anything before I? Okay. So, because I want to, so a lot of these conversations, like when we have these conversations via BAP, and shout out, because sometimes I'm like sitting there listening to people talk and my head is spinning. So for those of you who are watching and are in the chat and trying to figure out like what in the hell is going on right now, like, you are not alone. I promise you, there's multitude of people who are like, wait, back up and say that again.
I'm sorry,
right? No, it's not because of you. It is, and somebody actually said it in the chat, and I wish I had I think it was, oh, there it is, Keontae. It's wild how this seems a lot, but makes sense. It's just our Western knowledge getting in the way. And this is so true. And it's what I was saying about the words meaning different things. And even Josh had chimed in about the first time, like, he encountered like this idea of like fewer versus lesser, you know, and how all these terms play in, right?
It comes from their bad philosophy. Like, I won't even get into it, but white people have a different philosophy than dialectical materialism.
Right.
And it's all based on mind over matter, not the other way around, Renee. That's basically, it gives rise to all these things like liberalism, conservatism.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I want people to remember two things. One, Alkmi is not an academic. So I caught the word like this is academic in the chat. Alkmi is not an academic. So so this is not.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just a normal guy. I'm a nerd.
Don't. I don't want you to apologize at all, because the reason that it's so important, and you will be back more, because I'm all for doing like a full out, let's go through all 6 phase, like all the things, right? The reason I'm jumping in is because I think it's important that we all recognize that part of the reason it's so hard to follow is because we're propagandized, right? And this all plays into how we navigate understanding how dialectics works. But I also wanted to throw in something that for me also makes this quantity quality hard to navigate, right? So you have these 50-50 marches, these no kings marches, right? And it brings out a quantity, right? It brings out a quantity of people, right? But there will be no quality change because
you used it perfectly. You use
right?
it perfectly.
All
That
those
is it.
millions of people are all eating the Democratic sauce, and not all of them. I'm being funny now, right?
And it will make
But
a
the
quality
point-
shift, but not one that's good for us. It'll be a
right?
Democrat's club.
Exactly. And so when you're looking at it in that sense, because people will say like, well, the marches got bigger, so that means a quantity change. But does it actually mean a quality change? And it could mean a quality change. It might just not be the quality change that we want, right?
One important thing here, y'all, is viewpoint. So literally, when you say, "Oh, Alkmi," I won't interrupt, Renee. I want you to keep going, but all I'll say is
go ahead.
viewpoint. This points out a really big thing, you guys. Everything in the universe is its own subject. So that Iraq, indigenous people in their philosophy have already understood this. The object and the subject. Poncho, Professor McFly, you know about this if you're here. Basically, Renee, the thing that I forgot to tell you all about, but it actually plays exactly into this. Oh, I'm a no kings liberal. What are you talking about? There's a quality shift. Yes, there is. Dialectical materialism says everything is equal in its viewpoint. So everything has its own viewpoint. So what is a quality shift to one viewpoint might not be for another. What is form for one might be content for another viewpoint. So basically, you guys, all you need to understand is every single thing in dialectical materialism applies to everything in nature. But it also is relative. So it literally just depends on whose viewpoint you're centering in your analysis. From the point of view of revolutionaries, I'll be very simple, Renee, for you, me, and Jared. I guess it did make a quality shift. It made a quality shift, and now our enemies have like a fucking lot more muscle than we do because they got all those motherfuckers into their liberal fold, right? That is a quality shift. It's not a desirable one. You and I in our chat, we'll get into more of this later, but there's a term in dialectical Vietnamese materialism called suitability and unsuitability. It's not exactly the same as positive, negative. That's got a lot of Western metaphysical, idealist, Bukra loaded baggage too. All I want you all to understand is there is such a thing as this gets into a much deeper conversation about teleology, but long story short, you guys, suitable and unsuitable is what's good for our goals being the proletariat and the colonized, or what's taking us further away from our goal, right? The Vietnamese call it positive and negative, but it's not the same way you and I use it. So suitable and unsuitable is better. Renee, there actually were quality shifts in those there were,
and
but not suitable ones.
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's viewpoint. It's viewpoint. Yeah,
right. And so that was what, as I was talking to you and thinking, I was like, wait a minute. But there would be a quality shift. It just wouldn't be the quality shift that I want to have happen, right? Because now you have a multitude of people who have gathered together, and by the change in their quantity, we now have a change of quality back towards the Democratic Party, which is the same
which is a whole lot more of a contradiction.
Right.
So it's a bad quality
Jared
shift.
have been complaining about forever and a day, but also was expected. So okay, all right. So this is how it's applicable, folks, to like this idea of being out in the streets, right? Like the difference of what are the words? I'm having a mental moment of mobilization, right? Like that's the word we always like. You're mobilizing. You're not necessarily organizing. Like you're just bringing people into a space. And perhaps as you bring people into the space and more people gather in that space, you may have a quality change that is about whatever thing the Democrats want in the moment, which is to push everybody towards complaining about Trump.
Consolidate their power.
Based on Trump. But it will consolidate under something that we aren't necessarily aligned with. But that's
counterinsurgent.
Right.
Yeah, it's a counterinsurgent quality shift. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I appreciate. Look, thank you. This is why we do it. We need to chop into these things. I appreciate it.
Much love, sister. And I know, please, I always welcome the interruptions. And I think I've told you this and your audience this, but remember, you all, Alkmi, this isn't giving me anything new. I learned your concepts. I'm applying them. You'll recall in my first, this doesn't give you new information. Remember, Renee and chat and Jared, it doesn't teach you new things. I'm teaching you new things right now, but these are tools to help you organize information you're already taking in on an everyday basis as a mother, as a father, as a organizer, a professor. This helps you just align the shit you're getting from the world to make sure that your mind is actually looking at matter the way it's already arranged and the way it already moves in groups. That's all it is. It's those things you buy for the back of your car that help you organize all the shit in your trunk? That's what dialectical materialism categories and laws are. I was just telling my significant other that they're just information organizers to make sure you're moving and grooving in the way that maximizes your agency in the world and make sure you're not wasting movement and you're moving with matter as it actually moves, right? To your point, Renee, when it comes, we'll actually get into this. The next slide is actually all the practical kind of advice. But the last thing to get to here is, So basically, Renee, what Renee did was she said, Alkmi, can you apply this concept to something that happened in real life? That's all these are for. it won't even necessarily give you new information about the no kings and the bullshit that it was, but it helps you organize the information of evolving and developing matter and material processes in order for you to be able to understand them as they actually are, so you can intervene and change those processes as you wish. We want the kind of quality changes of revolution and of class liberation and of decolonization for Black and Indigenous people, right? Those are quality changes we want. So you need to identify the quantities that will get there. Our enemy wants us to be genocided. You know, they want to erase Palestinians and Indigenous people and Latinos, right? And Black people. They are going to want quality shifts too. Don't think quality is a good or bad thing, Africans and comrades. That's just the Western language, right? Quality is just identities changing. The No Kings got some fucking identities to be changed, not people, but like processes. Shit changed in the favor of the Democrats. I just don't want you guys to get caught up on quality is good or bad. We say that in the West, but quality is just the identity of something. It's the properties. We want properties. They want properties, right? I want communism. That's a property, right? They want, I don't know what the fuck liberals want. They want capitalism and they want to pretend like they're not. That's a property too. I want you all to understand everything in the world isn't just a fucking process. It's a process divided into two things. Every process is either going through quantity shifts where they look the same and they're growing or shrinking, or quality shifts where they're rupturing. That's all that this law wants. You already, this isn't to teach you about the world. You all know how to see the world. This is just reminding you to see the world as either things in continuity or things in rupture. And the rupture happens after continuity. All right. So before we get to the next slide, Dr. Ball, here's the last thing on this slide. This is very, very practical. The Vietnamese and the Chinese say something that you get out of this law. Oh, Renee, that made sense to you, right? The principle of moderation. Jared, no questions on that. You guys understood what I meant by stabilizing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Shit you don't like, destabilize it. How do you do that? Push quantities. Shit you do like, stabilize it. How do you do that? Keep quantities. Okay, cool. Here's the last part of this slide. Don't be impatient. Don't be conservative. What does that mean in terms of this law? Remember, things are always changing, but things only change by changing their identity or their qualities only once a certain requisite amount of quantity changes have been built up. What that means, you all, is that there's two mistakes that come from this. You might see this in your organizing or in your fellow cadre or your comrades' circles and your talks with them all the time. When you have a thing, when you are a person that wants a shit to change and a change to happen, but you're unwilling to recognize that certain quantities need to be built up first, the Vietnamese call that left-sided thinking. Don't get that confused with progressivism or communism. Shout out to the Remix Glossary. Shout out to Josh. Don't get that confused with all those words. This is just what they say for this particular law. Left-sided thinking is when you expect a quality shift to happen without the necessary quantities having been built up, right? So I want China to be communist right away. I'm not willing to accept that they had to engage in market-based socialism first because I don't even care about what the productive forces are. This is kind of getting into the weeds, but all of those who you know what I'm talking about, right? Ultra-leftist. That's called left-sided opportunism, or it's just called impatience in the Vietnamese materialist canon. You do not want to be someone that just wants to force or expect or dogmatically will quality shifts to happen that haven't accumulated enough of their appropriate quantity shifts to happen first. That's someone who is being unrealistic. You only want quality shifts, and you're not willing to recognize that quantity shifts are requisite to be built up first for every quality shift. Right-sided thinking, you all, is you are unwilling to accept that quality shift or change is inevitable in a process once quantity has already been built up to a threshold range. So that's the exact opposite of left-sided thinking, you all. Left-sided thinking says, I want something that I want, but I don't want to wait for it or build up the quantities to make that quality change happen and manifest what I want, right? Right-sided thinking is enough quantity changes have already been built up. People, women wearing pants, or LGBT people being a real thing that have existed for thousands of years. People are changing their attitudes about interracial marriage. I don't like that. I don't want that to change. I'm going to stop that from changing. Well, first of all, you can't, right? Change is always occurring, right? Second of all, the Vietnamese would say, that's conservatism. It's hatred or resistance to change, yes. But in a philosophical level, you are someone who doesn't want to accept that a quality shift is inevitable once a certain amount of quantities have been built up. We can elaborate more on this later. But the Vietnamese basically say, practice moderation. Know how to stabilize things or push quantities past things and thresholds when you don't like them. Don't be impatient. Do not expect quality changes to happen unless you've studied which quantity changes are necessary. Do not be conservative. Don't be against quality shifts or changes in anything if enough quantity has already been built up where that change will be inevitable. All right, go ahead and next slide, Dr. Jam. This is just some thoughts I wrote out for you all. I'm going to go out of orator mode for a second, just go into reading mode. But these are all very concrete ways that the Vietnamese textbook, as well as what I've pulled from it, wants us to apply this in our everyday organizing. So essentially, you all, I still want to take questions after this for this law. Like, Alkmi, I'll give you a situation, Alkmi. Can you show how this heuristic applies? But this is a little more concrete than all that stuff I've been telling you earlier. That was just kind of the theoretical anatomy of the law. This is the Vietnamese textbook section of kind of how to write each law. There's like a C section in every single law. You guys, maybe Comrade Lorik, if you're here in the chat, you can show the page. Sorry, apologies that I can't. But this is what the Vietnamese textbook says about applicability law, all right? I have one for each of the laws here today. Since all development occurs through quality shifts that takes place only after a certain threshold of quantity shifts have been reached, it is important to avoid expecting quality shifts to occur prior to necessary quantity shifts having been built up. That's left-sided thinking. That's impatience. And it's also important to avoid attempting to resist quality shifts once the prerequisite quantity shifts have been accumulated. That's conservatism or right-sided thinking or resistance to change. Because things only maintain their identity or their quality within certain boundaries of certain thresholds, we must keep quantities within their respective thresholds to stabilize/maintain suitable qualities and push quantities past their thresholds to negate or change unsuitable qualities. That's the Chinese Marxist-Leninist principle of moderation. Because relationship between quantity and quality can vary based on conditions or circumstances, and they're diverse and they're plentiful. They're everywhere and they're infinitely unique, each one. We must study comprehensively the conditions for the subjects whose quantities and qualities we wish to manipulate and impact. And we have to understand which quantities are required to correspond to which qualities are desired. So I said this last time. I'll end here and then I'll take questions for this, but I'll give you guys the textbooks example. Say you're an organizer. Say you don't like the quality of homelessness and foodlessness and lunchlessness in your city. Say you don't like that quality. You want to change that quality. First, you can't change it all at once. You and some cadre might have to get enough supplies and labor to feed maybe your block, maybe just once a week. Maybe do that for a couple weeks. You guys remember me saying this last time. Once you've gotten that shit on lock, then maybe you can start expanding and feeding people 3 times a week. Maybe after that point, you can start feeding people in your district, in your alderman area, maybe even in your municipality in the city. Maybe eventually, if you keep doing that, you can feed everyone in your city. And maybe if you feed everyone in your city, then maybe you can make it not just once a week or 3 times a week, but maybe 5 times a week. Do you see that path I went through there? That's very unrealistic, I know. But that would be an example of, in our praxis, how do we apply the law of quantity and quality? Don't be impatient. Understand, if you want something to change, it can happen. Most changes can happen. It just, not all changes are equally requisite of the same objective and subjective factors. But you need to understand which quantities need to be built up for that change you want. Because all things, when they jump and quality shift, that's always because a quantity's been building up. That's the invisible change accumulating something as it's stable in its existing form as a process. Quality shifts are just the moments where it's like, oh my God, that shifted all at once. What happened? The Western way wants you to think shifts and jumps happen all at once. The dialectical materialist way wants you to understand everything's changing all the time. It's either something doesn't look like it's changing, that's quantity shifting, or something literally just looks like it fucking disappeared and a new thing came in its place. That's quality shifting. These are united, and the first one comes before the other. That's all it wants to say. So any questions before we go on to the next? Sorry. Renee, Jared?
Not from me, but Jared, do you have anything? I think our little they're all talking in the chat too. So I think
I hope good. I hope I'm not.
I think we're no. I think we're good. And Josh wants us to make sure we clip that left versus right side thing.
Oh, Comrade Josh is here.
Pick up to you. Josh, I'll circle back to you. Can you like write down a timestamp for right now so that I remember like where to go back?
I'm sorry,
where to go back and click for?
If you want, I can give you the pages too. There's
yeah. Well, when this is over, I'll remind I'll remind Jared to drop the actual like this link into the show notes so that people can go back and get to it whenever they need to. But I think we can go to the next point. So
okay, cool. Just so you all know, 173, 174 Vietnamese dialectical curriculum. Yeah, I'm going to try to take after Josh's example here, be a good teacher. 173, 174. All right, thank you, Dr. Jab. All right, you all, not going to lie, this is the longest section. It's the most important, but a lot of it is going to be one sentences. You already know what contradictions are. It's a temporary unity of opposing forces. Let's just get fucking into the how to use it, all right? I'm going to be bringing in some Chinese Mao Zedong thought. I'm going to be bringing in a little bit of our Vietnamese. And I'm going to be teaching you guys, I'm going to be equipping you guys with 2 or 3 tools. The law of contradictions basically says, you guys, every process in the material universe, even thoughts and semiotics, are defined by a temporary unity of opposing sides. So if you're a thing that exists in the world, even a thought form, you are going to be defined by 2 opposing forces somehow that are in unity. Now, by the way, Comrade Renee, I'm a huge fan of the Remix Morning Show. I watch it all the time. I saw after my appearance on Saturdays with Renee, the week after, you were talking to Erica Keynes and some of your comrades about what you learned. And I love that. I love seeing you guys operationalize your shit. Even disagree with Alkmi if you want. I just love that you all are talking about dialectics. Like, I just love that. You know, you told Comrade Erica, you were like, basically contradictions, the way I understand it, is it's like things are always in conflict. And then, you know, Comrade Kane, she wasn't correcting you or affirming you. She was just kind of like, well, my understanding is that it's more things are always in motion. You guys do shows all the time. Renee, I don't know what kind of memory you have, but if you remember that, you weren't wrong. I think Erica was a little more kind of spot into the language I learned it in. But I would just say, Renee, you remember this when I said this last time. Not all contradictions are problems, but all problems are contradictions. Remember that little aside I said? You were kind of thinking in that way, where it's like, yes, all conflicts, like a war, a spat between a husband and wife, whatever, right? Those are conflicts and those are contradictions. But I wouldn't necessarily call all contradictions conflicts, because we'll get into this later. Some contradictions can be resolved in a non-antagonistic way. You know, like we'll get into like the types of contradiction. My partner just gave me.
I appreciate that. And if anybody noticed, this is literally my hashtag today. Literally, conflict or contradiction. So just so people know,
I'm on the same page as you. No, thank you. No, you know, I know you know.
So just so people know, this is my, like, y'all know I have all these multiple struggles that I'm having all the time about multiple things and trying to navigate stuff. And they're Alkmi, I can't even tell you, like, and Jared's quiet because he is quietly like spinning right now, like trying to.
I hope I'm not boring Dr. Jab or anyone. I'm so sorry.
No,
I want to demystify. I'm not going to make it.
No, exciting, and it's a lot, right? But I feel like if we as people who are trying to navigate, how do we force change? Right? Like, how do we get to that? How do we get to the quality shift? Right? Like, how do we get there? I feel like if we can understand more about how, like, kind of really rewriting how we understand things from the Western basis and understanding this as this constant push and pull, this constant change, this like all these things, I feel like is very helpful for those of us who are trying to organize people, right? Like, it's important. Lots of contradictions in social life. There's a lot of contradictions. And I think I use the term conflict so much because I am conflicted about my contradictions.
Yeah, that's your primary.
Right. Like, my primary contradictions in my day-to-day life are, it's a conflict for me. Like, even, you know, like, even like back to going to the game at Vanderbilt, right? Like, being there and knowing that on the other side of the state, the federal troops and law enforcement are attacking people. And I'm in this state, like, doing something that's fun, right? Like, right? Or trick-or-treating last night. Like, I'm on my BAP like committee call. The kids are ringing the bell for the candy, right? Like, I live in the burbs. So I got, I'm like doing the hand out of the candy thing and thinking to myself, like, I had multiple moments where I'm like, you know, kids in Palestine can't do this shit. Right. They can't do something like and I know I see moments on, you know, on my doom scrolls where they're trying to do, like, they're playing soccer on the rubble, right? Sorry, football on the rubble. And so even in times of pure turmoil, people have the capacity to try and find moments of joy, right? So like, I understand but these are all for me contradictions and they're conflicts for me, right? Because I personally struggle with having first world problems when there are just way larger problems in the world. Right.
And you're a third world person. Rough. You're not even white. Like, we're all third world people. So to us, doubly, because we live in the belly and we're not from there. You know, people that look like us, our families. You already know. Yeah. Well, all I would say is, and I know you know this, Renee, but contradiction doesn't equal hypocrisy, right? I know I got that through your skull, everyone's skull. That's not what it means, right? To be my partner wrote, hey, can you field this question? You already know how to deal with this. Contradiction isn't hypocrisy. It just means it's a temporary unity of opposing forces. That is present in hypocritical people. But it's also present in water and in non-hypocritical people. And in, you know what I'm saying, Renee? Everything is this. The presence of a contradiction in our philosophy doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means all things are defined by it. So analyze two sides of an opposing unity of forces, see where the change is going to come from, work to transform it, right? It doesn't mean, You know what I'm saying? You know what the fuck I'm saying, Renee. Like, you're not a hypocrite. Contradictions are everywhere. How do you deal with the contradictions that define you? That's all. And you call it a conflict because that's how you sociologically relate.
Yeah, I think that's how that's how I respond to it personally.
Yeah. Right. No, you weren't wrong in saying that. But you remember when Erica said it's more motion? You remember when she answered that to you? I was talking with that with my partner. I'm not going to get into this with you all right now, but basically, it seems like Asian dialecticians, we kind of use the word change more. Europeans in the dialectical tradition, not the normal bukra, they don't like using the word change. They like using the word motion. And I think that's, brother Ntume, I'm sure you have all sorts of fucking things in your head and your communist history brain about this. But it seems like Russians and like British and French communists, they like using the word motion more because it comes from the scientific tradition. That's what dialectical materialism was really being created in the foment of during that time in Europe when Marx and Engels, did what they did. But also Europeans seem to say change is not why. Europeans have a different relationship to the word change. We can get into another conversation about that. But the way I understand it, Africans, is that Europeans said, I don't want to say that everything's changing in dialectical materialism because we already have a conception of that, and that's quantity changes. And I won't get into this with you, but basically Europeans didn't count for quality changes in their philosophy, only quantity shifts. So in their tradition, philosophical tradition, Renee, they always said the word change only when it refers to quantity shifts, not anything else, like a transformation, right? So long story short, I'm not saying Erica embodied this. This kind of made me think of that. I've been studying lots of dialectical materialism from the East and the West, from Africans, from Latinos. It seems to be like the West, kind of. They like saying motion a lot. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, but if I'm sitting on my desk and I'm not moving, it's hard for you to picture I'm in motion, even though I'm aging and my molecules are oxidizing and there are metabolic processes moving inside of me that make me die a little more each day. You live, you die more, right? Like Josh said in the last chat, right? That's why I like the word change more. It comes from Taoism, everything's changing, Buddhism, right? So I'm Asian. So, but I've noticed that a lot of materialist dialecticians in the West or from Western inspired traditions that have been impacted by the Western materialist dialectical tradition, Renee, they like motion more. Everything's in motion. That's fine. But a lot of Asians, like Vietnamese and Chinese materialist, we say motion and development, but we also just say change. It's like, well, how's it change? Me moving like this. That's
and I feel like
change. Yeah.
And just quickly, like I feel like, and this may just be me. I feel like those two words mean different things. Like I wouldn't use the word motion for change because you could absolutely be in motion and there would be no change, right?
It's like, is it a quantity change or quality? Right. So
right,
the Vietnamese just say quantity and quality. So it's very,
yeah. So it's, it's interesting. Like I have a magnet on the fridge that my mother-in-law I took from my mother-in-law's fridge after she passed that says, worrying is like being in a rocking chair. You may be moving, but you're not getting anywhere, right? Like
I like that.
Right? So I think like that's what I just thought of. Like if you're in a rocking chair, you're in motion, but you're not changing anything. Right.
I like that.
So
I like that.
So it's just something, I don't know. It was just something that popped in my head as you were talking just now. But I think I like this idea of using quality and quantity instead now with some clarity.
What type of change is it? Yes, it's changing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Continuity
exactly.
rupture. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to keep going, Renee, but I just want to say this. You all know the concept of an organic intellectual, blah, blah, blah. Philosophers are not people that get paid six figures to just sit on their butt in a white ivory. That's not what a philosopher is. That's one kind of philosopher. Philosophers are just people who think about concepts in the everyday world and what it means to them. So all of us are philosophers. You probably have heard this, right? The socialist kind of like working class definition. But Sister Renee, I don't know if you've ever thought of yourself about this or been described as this, but you are a philosopher. I see it. I see it when you squabble with your doctor. I see it when you think about things deeper than you are a philosopher. I just hope you know that you're practicing philosophy every day when I see you grasping these concepts and wrestling.
I appreciate
I don't know if you've ever.
I'm trying.
You are. No, you are.
I am trying hella hard to like
no.
Make sense of things and help other people make sense of things and just bring other conversations in. And I got a really nice note from somebody the other day just saying like thanking me. And I don't like I hear that sometimes, but I think when you're in these spaces and doing these things and knowing that not all the time is your effort going to result, like I'm probably never going to live to see the change. If there is a change that is beneficial for my son, I am unlikely to be alive when that happens. And so, people would say like, well, why bother then? Right. And for me, the real the reality of all of what I do is not because I want the change for me. It's because the change just needs to happen. It has nothing to do with whether I reap any benefit or if, you know, in my house internally there's benefit. You know, and I had a very long conversation with a friend who was like, well, don't you worry about your son, like you're doing all these things. And I was like, I do, but I don't put myself or my son above humanity.
Right. That's what the booker wants us to think.
Right. And so I just, you know, and it's a hard thing for people to understand that a mother would say, like, the larger population has to survive. The larger population has to get the resources. The larger population has to do the things that has to be able to access the things that they need to access, because we're all humans and earned simply by being born the right to live, breathe, and eat, like, period. Right. And so it's a rough place to be in sometimes. And I really, like, I appreciate it when somebody says, like, you're good, you're doing the right thing, you're good, right?
You are, Sister Renee, you are. And you are a philosopher. And the point of philosophy is to change the world, not just to think about it. That's what Marx said. And the last thing I would say, and we really will get started, I know a lot of you all appreciate our indigenous philosophers and radicals, and I'm going to bring a little bit of that in. Read some Leanne Simpson, Betta Samosake. You know what I'm saying? Listen to Red Nation. Listen to some Nick Estes, right? Our indigenous Anishinaabe, Renee, the people you would understand as Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Odawa, the people of Michigan and Chicago and Wisconsin, and the original people of Minnesota, right? The Great Lakes people, they have this philosophy called the 7 generations principle. I don't know it in their language, but I have to care and caretake for this earth and care for my living and non-living and non-human relatives as if 7 generations down the line, they will be impacted by the outcomes of my actions. I have to live for the 7 generations down the line for me, not just my son, not just his son, even if my son doesn't have a son. The people 7 iterations that are still going to be here when I'm long gone, they will feel the impacts of what I did. I'm only here because the people 7 generations before me cared. That's the Anishinaabe people's philosophy. I'm sure Comrade McFarland, Professor McFarland, he knows all about this more than me. But you know, Renee, that's what you're getting into, the dialectic of the particular and the general, right? I have to care about liberation and African people and humanity and my kid. And long story short, I'm gonna use metaphysical and idealist, Renee, because that's basically the 2 words that encompass the white, Western, normal, everyday people thinking that gets us confused about quantity and quality. There's a way we can collapse all this time. Idealist and metaphysical. All right, let's just agree to call them that. The idealist metaphysical mindset says, Renee, you can only care about your son or the world. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Me caring about my son exists within my care for the world. The particular exists within the general. Dr. Ball, the late, great, Professor Rhodes, he said the same thing when it comes to internationalism and nationalism. Nationalism exists within internationalism, but I don't know if anyone remembers that. But yeah, we can get started on the slide. But no, Renee, you are a philosopher. You're doing good things. There's not an incompatible, exclusive opposition to caring about your particular unit and caring about the general. There's not. Just metaphysical people who think there is. But yeah, so you guys, I'm aware of the time. I'm going to try to not do what I did last time, but I'm going to try to assume that you all have a base understanding of contradiction. I want to deepen your understanding. I know I will come back for more elaboration on this later, but I at least want to get you guys to understand contradictions at a level 2 level. I already did the level 1 last time. All right, let's get started. We can always come back to this. That's all I want to say. I may raise more questions than I can answer right now, but I am trying to get you guys at least to be able to operationalize these things a little better. This is what this slide is for. This slide's section. All right, Dr. Ball, as you guys can see with this, a contradiction in the dialectical sense of the term is something that's in everything. It's just a temporary unity of opposing sides. It's not always a conflict, but all conflicts are contradictions. It's just a yin and a yang that's in everything. It can be aspects, it can be attitudes, it can be one partner or another partner in a relationship. It's just different aspects of something that are both the premise for each other's existence. That's the unity, but they are somehow mutually opposed and literally on opposite side of some spectrum in some way. Everything has those, right? It's a temporary unity of opposing forces. Next slide, Dr. Ball. Again, you already know what contradictions are. I'm going to try to be fast. I'm going to try to get to the level 2. The Vietnamese say, you all, okay, Alkmi, I know what a contradiction is. What the fuck do I do with this? The Vietnamese say there's 5 characteristics of contradictions in their Marxist-Leninist tradition. Contradictions are objective. They exist whether you want them to or not, outside and independent of human will. Contradictions are general. They are everywhere in the universe, and everything's made out of them. Contradictions are diverse. Yes, Jared, everything's made out of contradiction. No, Alkmi. Not everything's the same. That's just Bukra metaphysical thinking. Everything both is made out of contradiction. So that's what we all share. But everything's also all unique, and every contradiction is its own special, unique historical pattern of development, and it will require its own unique attention and analysis to solve it, resolve it, or to stabilize it. Every contradiction is different, and in some way, every contradiction is also the same. That's the general and the particular. And they're plentiful. I really like this word, you guys. Not only are contradictions everywhere, Africans, not only are contradictions infinitely diverse and unique, they're quite literally bursting out of the seams of everything. My partner likes it when I use that kind of language. I'm defined by economic and political and molecular and physical and social contradictions. The time I have with Jared and Renee is defined by time contradictions and schedule contradictions, right? Economic and even chemical contradictions of my tummy and my hunger, right? So all I want you guys to know is that plentiful means not only contradictions everywhere, there's practically an infinite amount of contradictions inside of everything. We'll get back to that later. There's practically an infinite amount, but there always will be some more important than others. But they're not only everywhere, they're practically bursting out of the seams of everything. Everything's got countless contradictions defining it, because every level of matter has its own particular qualities and contradictions. The types of contradictions, this is what I did not get into you all with last time. This is probably going to clear up some questions you all had. Alchemy. Contradictions are temporary unities of opposing forces. I get it. They exist whether I want them to or not. Not all contradictions are problems to be solved. But do I treat all contradictions the same, or is there like a guideline? Yeah, there is. The Vietnamese say there's generally 4 kinds of pairs of types of contradictions. There's much more. But for social, political, and even philosophical theory and practice, the kinds of contradictions we need to understand, comrades, is there are internal and external contradictions. We will get, I promise you all, because Renee has generously invited me back on again, I promise we will get more in these in another day. Right now, I just want to show you they exist, okay? Internal and external contradictions are the contradictions that exist within something of a system or beyond it, and contradictions that it as a system participates in with other systems. All you all need to understand from the Vietnamese and the Chinese is that internal contradictions drive development. Internal contradictions drive development. They are the engine. If no internal, no development, no change. External contradictions impact and condition development, but they do not drive it. Fundamental and non-fundamental contradictions. The Vietnamese and the Chinese basically say a fundamental contradiction is the one contradiction of something throughout its whole life as a process, throughout all the quality and quantity shifts it goes through that define it. Just a brief example. I'm a human. I have many contradictions defining me, right? You all know this. But my fundamental contradiction is the same as yours and Jared's and the people who've died before me that aren't alive anymore. All humans have the same fundamental contradiction from the biological point. What is that, Alkmi? Well, Josh said it in the last chat, Comrade Lorik. I want to live, and my body has evolved to maintain itself through homeostasis and metabolism, and it's constantly using energy and taking in molecules of the organic outside world to reassemble itself and regenerate itself, right? And because my body is existing and using laws of thermodynamics and nature and experiences friction between its various parts, it is always aging and dying and wearing out, just like a tool, right? The use value contradicts its, right? The relationships of a thing contradicts its use value. I'm sure Mtumne knows about that. I'm living, but every living thing is also dying at the same time because it's using up its biological machinery and is subject to laws that will eventually break down its relationships and turn into something it's not. A bowl of ash, a bunch of bones, a dead human. You see? That's my fundamental contradiction. Everything else that's not the fundamental contradiction of something, that doesn't define its process throughout its whole many phases of its life, are the non-fundamental contradictions. Me wearing a shirt, and I can't always wear a shirt because I got to shower sometimes, right? That's not fundamental. Me wearing glasses, but sometimes I have to take them off, right? Because they get in the way even though they help me see. You guys know what I'm talking about. Contradictions are everywhere, Alchemy. Do I focus on everything? No. Understand the fundamental contradiction of something is what makes it the way it is all throughout all the phases of its life. Primary and secondary contradictions, I know you comrades and Africans know what these are. Daruba talks about them all the time. The Black Panthers and Liberation Army did, right? This is what a lot of people of the third world socialist tradition get out of, an anarchist tradition get out of Mao, right? Mao did a lot of work on this. You all have heard this before. I'll just give my own spin on this. The primary contradiction of something or of a process is just the contradiction that defines what it is and its identity at that current stage of its development. Notice how I said that, right? Because all things are developing. And even when I'm not me anymore, my body, my relationships, and the things that compose my content will go on to have other impacts and other developments with other things and other systems. A primary contradiction is freeze, stop moving, even though everything's moving. What you are or thing is or system is right now at this moment of analysis, the contradiction that defines that's the primary contradiction. All other contradictions are secondary, which means they don't define the thing, they just impact its existence. We'll get more into this later. But just so you all know, primary, I see this a lot in socialist and communist and anarchist circles, misapplying dialectics. Primary does not mean more important. It doesn't even mean solve it first. It just means the contradiction defining the thing's existence at that phase of its development. The fundamental contradiction is the thing that the contradiction that defines the whole thing throughout all stages. Is still we're zooming out. Internal and external is just contradictions inside of something or outside of something. All right, pretty easy. What the primary contradiction, secondary contradiction is, comrades, that can flip places all the time. It always does. But the fact that there is a primary and a secondary is always there. It's absolute. It's baked into the universe, just like contradictions are. We'll get to that more in the next couple slides, Renee. I'm also going to be sharing with you guys 2 tools. The Chinese Marxist-Leninist contradiction analysis method. It sounds very complicated, woo-woo. It's not, I promise. It's just 2 theories. And I'm also going to be sharing with you all our Chinese Marxist-Leninist 3 characteristics of contradictions. And then maybe if we have time, different contradiction resolution methods. Maybe Dr. Ball, this can maybe help you in your contradictions in your life. But I don't want to teach you guys about contradictions without showing you at least a small sample of the diversity of how they can be resolved. Go ahead, next slide, Dr. Ball. Long story short, there's 19. There's not just 2 ways to solve contradictions. That's another thing metaphysical people get wrong. All right, jumping right into it, y'all. The Chinese say, this is not in the Vietnamese textbook. You won't find this here. Sorry, Comrade Josh, or anyone using this for PE. But I'd be more than happy to elaborate further on like where I found this and like how I came to understand this. But our Chinese Marxist-Leninist tradition says, this is kind of restating the same thing, but I think it's a little more precise, you all. The Chinese say there's 3 characteristics of dialectical contradictions you need to know about and 4 theories. So basically just three bullets, but then the 3rd bullet has 2 parts of it. That's all. I drew some pretty pictures for y'all. Sorry if it's not up to par. Keep going, Dr. Ball. To elaborate, a lot of these things you already know. This is just a new novel way of organizing it. I find it very helpful in pedagogical situations. The Chinese say...
Wait, real
yes,
quick.
Yes.
And this is this is just my brain working in real time and saying something so I don't forget it. And because Samantha's probably, if she's not out there in the world watching this right now, she'll be watching it at some point.
Yo, shout out to Dr. Yusuf.
So I just want to make sure. Sam, we talked about, somebody brought up, because we've been doing this whole revolutionary animation thing, right? And so one of the conversations we had, shout out Intume as always, was can we figure out a way to explain dialectics using animation?
I've literally thought about that with Dr. Yusuf. Oh
and God. So you have like all these little things. So I'm saying this out loud so that Samantha, when she watches this, if she's not watching right now, can remember that we have these little graphics here in this thing that at some point we have to circle back to, because if we're going to do the whole dialectics as animation thing, like this could be a good starting point. So just
I don't want to insinuate myself at all, Sister May, because I'm not important or even like worthy of being in the same kind of conversations with skills individuals like yourselves. But I just want to say, peep the email I sent you and Jared. I have more pretty pictures.
No, I saw. That's what I'm saying.
This very inspired because I've thought about the same thing.
This is what reminded me. Yeah, definitely. So just saying it out loud. But don't worry, Alkmi. If we go there, you're definitely part of the conversation. So don't think at all that this would be happening without your participation.
I'm not worthy, but I'd be honored.
So, sorry, I interrupted for that because I had to put the pin in it so that I didn't forget to point out to Sam when she watches this. So there we go. All right, sorry, go.
No, please. And all I'm going to say is, Dr. Yusuf, if you're watching, a huge fan of your work. I love seeing you come on. I want to see you come on more. I've thought about this too, Renee. This shit needs to be taught. And it needs to be animated because it's begging to be. There's so many things that animation could do that my words couldn't or my pictures couldn't. And these abstract concepts that are actually universal and concrete, animation is the perfect form. You see what I did? Form and content for this content, because you're teaching people shit about balls impacting and arrows. And, I like my pictures, but animation would be so much more powerful. And that's the whole, you're using a mundane bourgeois form to be a container for revolutionary content. The old Trojan horse, 1, 2, switch them, right? You got a Disney animator, but we're teaching revolutionary dialectics, like, yes, Comrade Renee, yes. No, please interrupt whenever you see fit. And shout out to you, Dr. Yusuf. I love your work. I love your class tradership. Welcome to the folds. But basically, you all, contradictions exist everywhere at all points in time and space. They will go on forever. They're baked into the universe. You already know that. That's called absolute struggle. Contradiction is forever and unconditional and infinite. You already know that. You've heard this, Mao, right? Huey. But unity is relative. What does that mean? Every contradiction specifically will always be over. The one between capital and labor, right? Capitalism wasn't always here, right? It can be It can be negated, right? I won't always be alive. Renee won't always have the problem she has, like every single problem or non-problem that's a temporary unity of opposing forces is temporary. That's all you need to understand. But contradiction itself is forever. Every time one contradiction, another new one growing out of the previous one will emerge. That's all you guys need to understand. It's both. A contradiction is both opposing forces, and they make up one object together. That's what unity means in dialectical materialist terms. You guys have heard this before. I'm just trying to elucidate this for you. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in the metaphysical wordplay of what that word means to us versus dialectics. This is all it means. A contradiction is two opposing sides that are opposite to each other somehow. It'll always get done and give rise to another one eventually. Unity is just the bigger thing that those two opposite sides make up. So in a war, country A and country B are the two opposite sides, but the unity of them is the war, the process itself. When I catch COVID from a fucking person that wasn't wearing their mask, because you know how the bukras are, right? The COVID virus and me defending myself against it with my metabolic path, my biological evolutionary machinery, those are the two opposite sides. Renee, what's the unity? Me having a disease. You see, every situation or thing has an identity. Identity is the same thing as unity. What's a unity? Oh, it's just a thing made of two opposing things. Okay, cool. Everything's like that. All right, next slide. That's what the Chinese say. This is the second characteristic, you all. Basically, the particularity and universality of contradiction. All you guys need to understand is that contradictions are everywhere and they're infinitely diverse. They're bursting out of everything, but they're not all the same. They're also infinitely unique. Just like the particular common pair that I taught you guys. Next slide, Dr. Chan. See, I told you guys some parts would be fast. We may not get to negation and negation today. That's fine. I need you guys to understand contradictions more than last time. The last characteristic of the Chinese Marxist-Leninist three characteristics of contradictions, you all, is unevenness. What does that mean? Mao did a lot of work on this. Whoever has read Mao or On Practice or On Contradiction, this is straight out of that shit. You guys know more than me, probably. This is the way I understand it. The Chinese say not only are contradictions everywhere and unique, and they are a unity of opposition, right? Contradictions display the characteristic of unevenness, Africans. Unevenness. What does that mean? Well, what it means is that in every system that's made of many contradictions, there's always one contradiction at that moment in time, right, Renee and Jared, that decides its identity. That's like, yes, I have many, but one contradiction right now is to decide my identity, and that is, I have things to do, but I want to be on with Jared and Renee. There you go. That's a very simple one to say. That's my primary contradiction right now, right? So what unevenness reminds us is that every contradiction has two members. There's always a primary aspect in each contradiction and a secondary aspect. There's always a member in a contradiction of opposing sides that is deciding the unity, and the other that's not. In any system of contradictions, there's always 1, 2, 3, 4 bajillion contradictions, and one contradiction that's deciding that system's identity. You see? So that's what Dr. Ball, if you could not go on but scroll down, that's what unevenness says. There are a primary contradiction in a thing and secondary contradictions. A contradiction, there's a primary participant or aspect or opposing side and a secondary aspect or opposing side. Okay? Bada bing, bada boom. What's Mao's two-point theory and emphasis theory? The Chinese Marxist-Leninist tradition has gotten this in a really high-level, abstract and concretized, powerful way of explaining this. So I mixed what I like from them. And they call this the contradiction analysis method, y'all. This is what you do when you're organizing. This is what you do to solve problems between people, all right? The Chinese say this is how you put unevenness into action. You have to use Mao's two-point theory, and you have to use Mao's emphasis theory. Mao's two-point theory says, you, comrade, revolutionary, whenever you're confronting anything, to see things as contradictions, Renee, you need to take a thing and break it up. Break it up into primary and secondary contradictions. You need to take a contradiction, anyone, and break it up into its primary and secondary aspect, all right? So it's basically the opposite metaphysical thinking. Hey, just see the world the way it is. Don't see past the surface. Don't care about Palestine. Don't care about anything other than the way I look and the way I sound. Don't care about my content, just my form. That's what the metaphysical world wants. Dialectical says, hey, before you go thinking that everything's just a thing that's solid, that's itself, you need to remember that everything is made up of lots of different aspects that might struggle against each other, that might be opposite. Hey, you said you love socialism, but you can't commit every day to being a socialist. Well, that's not being a hypocrite. That's just one of the opposing forces that define my life. You see what I'm saying, Renee? Mao's two-point theory says, remember, you need to break up a thing into different contradictions, the primary and the secondary ones, in order to fully see it as it is, in its many-sided reality. And you need to break up a contradiction into two sides, okay? The emphasis
real
theory
quick,
oh yeah,
Alkmi,
yeah.
if you don't mind, because I think people can't
Yes.
fully see it. Can you just
Oh, shit.
describe? Here's a
Oh
question.
my God.
That is eyeballs him
Sorry
looking
about
at
that.
one side of the con. So can you just explain
Yes,
what's
yes, yes.
inside the little circles?
I'm sorry about that.
No,
you
don't
know what?
apologize. Don't apologize, because I
No, I absolutely
have
can.
it open on
Dr.
another
Ball.
tab, so I can see.
Yeah,
it.
no, Dr. Ball, could you not zoom in and just go on the next slide? I think I preempted this problem. I did a zoom in. This was just the so could you go to the next slide, Dr. Ball? No, thank you, Sister Renee. I wasn't aware. Go to the next slide, Dr. Ball. There you go. So go to the next slide. So this was me talking about primary and secondary contradictions and aspects. Go to the next slide, Dr. Ball. There you go. So chat, everyone, please tell me if you can see this now. If not, I'll still explain. Renee, to the immediate question, you have a ball and the ball broke up, not like Dr. Ball. You broke up the ball into 4 balls. Only one of those balls is the primary contradiction. The rest of the second. You see what I'm trying to describe to you, Africans? You need to take a thing and you need to see it as a system of contradictions. That's all I'm saying. You broke up a ball into many different little circles that are opposing unities, right? Unified oppositions. You also need to take a contradiction, 2 balls that are opposing each other. You need to break it up and you need to see both sides as they are. That's all it is. Mal's 2-point theory says you need to see all the sides of something. And all the sides of something, each side of something, Renee's a mother, Renee's a teacher, Renee's a journalist. Every side and aspect of something is itself a unity of opposing sides. So just see all sides of something. And every side of something is a contradiction. Every contradiction has 2 sides. Boom. Emphasis theory. If you all can see that, you see the eyeball? Mao says you don't only want to break up a thing into different contradictions and different aspects, comrades. You want to be able to distinguish which one is the primary contradiction among secondary contradictions and which aspect is the primary aspect among secondary aspects. I'll tell you an example of primary and secondary contradictions in a moment, but I just want to tell you guys what this pair of theories is meant to do. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot, comments. Otherwise, you're being metaphysical. You have to be able to break something up into primary and secondary contradictions and a contradiction to primary secondary aspects. And you need to be able to distinguish which one of the contradictions of a thing is the primary one, the decider of its identity at that given moment of time of its development, and which side of opposing sides of a contradiction itself is the primary aspect, the one deciding the nature of that contradiction. Why? Is because if you don't break up a thing into many sides, you're just seeing something from one side, and you're emphasizing maybe just an appearance aspect of something, right? You're not seeing something from all sides. You can't do that. If you don't have Mao's emphasis theory, y'all, that's breaking up a thing into many sides and not taking a stance or seeing which side is the decisive factor which we have to focus on to change the system. I'll give you a classic example. Gentrification is a bad thing, Jared. It kicks people out. Like it's not fair, right? But it gives us Whole Foods. So, Renee, gentrification is bad, but Whole Foods comes too. I see a thing from many sides. So, there's bad, but there's good. That's wrong because that's doing Mao's 2-point theory. You're breaking up something into different angles, but you're not seeing which side is the primary aspect or primary contribution. And what the Chinese literally say is the political outcome of that is it's like seeing how conservatives and liberals are both right in their own kind of way, or, socialists. It's like seeing all sides and then not taking a stance. That's not political. That's apolitical, which is very right-wing political, right? So yes, gentrification does bring Whole Foods and it does bad things. But its primary thing it's doing is kicking people out and leading basically poor people to be economically displaced and disarticulated. And it brings untold amounts of misery onto Black and brown and working class people. And there's a good side to it, the Whole Foods. The Whole Foods is not the primary aspect. It's the kicking out and the displacing and the undemocratic colonization of an internal colonized people or a neighborhood, right? You cannot break a thing up into sides without emphasizing. You cannot just emphasize things without breaking up things into parts. You have to do both.
Right.
Go ahead, Renee.
And I think it's important to point out, you don't have to get Whole Foods to get real food and resources into a community, right? Like, you don't need Whole Foods specifically for that to happen. So I think one of the things, I'm so glad you brought that up as an example, because
I'm not going to name names, but I've seen that around this channel.
Because the reality is, if we allowed communities to resources that food, gardens and, the ability to share foods, to have real crops, to maybe have stores that don't sell things in plastic, but sell actual fresh foods.
Then you don't need that bad thing coming to have a good thing happen.
You don't need a Whole Foods in order to create that resource. So I think that is such a great example, because somebody would literally say that. Like, yeah, it's bad, but look, we
someone
got
has
Whole
literally
Foods.
said that.
Oh, okay. So see, there you go. And then you have
You
to
obviously didn't get the reference I was making, but I'm sure you're chatting. I won't say anything else. I won't say it.
And so, you know, you don't need the Whole Foods. We don't need to, and this is coming from the primary the contradiction, not primary, but secondary contradiction, that I go to Whole Foods, right? Like I shop at Whole Foods, but I can tell you immediately that if there are things that I can get at the little local garden store, I will go there before I go to Whole Foods. So just so folks understand, like that's a great example. That's great.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
So we're almost at time. Poor Jared hasn't said like a word almost.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ball.
I'm fine.
Do you want to open up for questions? I was almost done with the contradiction side. It's up to you if you want me to finish it. We can leave negation for next time, but
In all honesty,
whatever you guys
I don't have time.
Yeah.
I don't think if we could do a question justice in the few minutes, and I do have to go. So,
right.
Sure.
I would say
apologies.
like y'all know I'm about to get in the car. I got a 4:00 kick that I got to get to, so don't feel bad. So I would say let's pause then, right?
Sure.
We'll circle back. It's November 1st, December, January. We'll circle back. We can continue the conversation.
I wouldn't mind sooner, but that's completely on you all. But I wouldn't mind sooner.
We'll see. We have a lot of. Jared has no idea how many things I have like in the background on tap, because he's gonna forget until the week that it's coming, and so I try not to overwhelm with all the stuff. So like, I put Jared on an email, being fully well and clear that Jared is not paying attention to that email until I say, Jared, can you make the link?
I completely understand, Joel, but and I don't want to assert too much of my own. But when you were saying I have to politic with Jared last time about maybe making you a repeat guest, that door is always open in my bar, Sister Renee. So I don't want to push or rush or be left-sided thinking. But whenever you guys are ready to have that conversation or make those politic and those plans, please, I'm always welcome for.
Yeah, no,
I'm excited.
I feel like there's a lot here. I feel like Josh is about to send me a text. Like, if we do a series on this, I want in, because he does that to me sometimes. So there's all, just so you know, like I got a note from Two Black while we were on that said that this was great. So just know, like, people are
Two Black said that?
Yeah, what? People are paying attention. So we're gonna figure this out, and so we can continue to go on. But I agree, we should probably pause. Can you make a note in your notes that we stopped here and that you don't forget whatever this last bit on the contradictions, this particular contradiction?
Already done. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Then we'll start from there next time, and then we'll do that. So somebody is asking, Keontae wants to know, Alkmi, what are your socials? If you want to share those real quick so folks can track you down.
I'm sorry, brother Keontae. You're one of my favorite chatters too. I'm going to have to disappoint in any meaningful way when it comes to my revolutionary life. I'm really not on socials. You can find me on my YouTube channel. It's got more of my beatboxing and my piano and stuff, so it's not really that political yet. But if any of you are on Xiaohongshu, the Chinese Red Note app that the TikTok refugees went to after the whole Trump fiasco, I'm actually on there, and I have been teaching a little bit dialectics on there. I don't think anyone's been watching me, but it's a space that's more free of fascists than the American social. So any of you on Xiaohongshu, I'm just Alkmi, but I really appreciate that, y'all. Thank you.
Look, I try to stay off socials, but I'm finding that it's getting me in trouble. That I try to stay.
It's for a different reason.
I've been missing stuff.
No, me too. My partner is how it's for a different reason, and it's more, and I'll talk to you and Jared about this one of these times, but I have a kind of past life that wasn't me as Alkmi, and I'm not really trying to like let anyone from that past life find me. That's why I don't really say where I live, and that's going to be kind of related to why I'm not on this.
Listen,
I'm not that interesting, but
I hear that fully, but it does get me in trouble. So, Well, when we're at some point going to circle back with Andre Easton, who just announced his candidacy in New York. He's going to run against the Zionist shill in that congressional district. Why did I just forget dude's name? Jared, who's he running against? Have you? Oh, I don't know if you actually read the chat from last night. It's occurring to me because you were at the soccer game. Richie Torres. He's running against Richie Torres in New York. And so I'll tell y'all the story real quick, which is like, I see, I get the share about him being on Bad Faith, and I'm watching, and his conversation with Brianna Joy Gray is dope. And I was like, why does brother look so familiar? This is killing me. And I'm on the chat with everybody like me. And I'm like, I know him from somewhere. Y'all, I've had whole ass conversations with Andre Easton on IG. Like whole ass.
Did you not know?
DM
You didn't know it was him?
I did, but for some reason in the moment when I saw the name, I did not match the name with the person. And there are pictures because, Jared, you also have met Andre Easton, and it was at the announcement candidacy for Claudia de la Cruz in Newark. So we have pictures with and it just took me a minute. But when I tell you, a whole ass conversations, and in the moment I'm staring at this brother on screen, and I'm like, he looks so familiar.
Some people are face people or name people,
Right.
Not everyone's
I'm a hot mess sometimes, y'all. I make fun of Jared's memory all the time, but I am a hot mess sometimes. But Andre's dope. That's on the tap for somebody coming up. We got Laura coming back. I got something brewing with her. We got a whole lot of stuff brewing.
Please have them back. And Erica, Sister, please have more of those. I love Layers of Beautiful Struggle. They put dialectics into action. You need to look at Lars and what his people are doing when it comes to alchemy. How do I do this stuff? They're doing it. They're using dialectics.
All right. Well, Alkmi, thank you so much for taking the time to put together more information. Appreciate all your prep work and everything. We'll circle back to bring you back so we can continue the conversation. Jared, since they're still winning, we're going to have to figure out a schedule for when we have Resistance is Futile back, because I assume the next game will be next Friday again.
Or Resistance is
I know. So we're gonna have a conversation with them. So we have a whole lot of stuff brewing, but I appreciate everybody. Alkmi, I appreciate you. Jared, appreciate you, and I will let you take us out.
No, big thanks to Alkmi and everyone. Renee, peace, everybody. Only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And see you next week with more Saturday with Renee.